I am so confused right now. I'm so confused when it comes to what the hell happened in She Professed Herself Pupil of the Wise Man. This is a series that is airing in the Winter 22 anime season. This is my thoughts on the first 2 episodes, so let's jump into it. She Professed Herself Pupil of the Wise Man opens up in a video game. This video game is called Arc Earth Online, and this seems like to be a lot of emphasis early on just how very loose the mechanics are in this particular video game. Its whole emphasis is on how people can do whatever they kind of want. It gives them ultimate freedom. People are able to do so many great things with it, whether it be, building up wealth as doing some sort of job or getting skills or getting stronger. All to this point where it gradually evolves to where people start building nations and building leaderships and all this kind of stuff all inside this game. It really gives a sense that this Arc Earth Online is an evolving and breathing world that people are able to play in and really advance in. All the way until the point, like I said earlier, you do have people building kingdoms. Specifically, they talk about this Solomon guy who is leading this entire kingdom of Archite. And in this kingdom of Archite, there is these 9 wise men, which are these people that are super skilled and super powerful. One being Dunbalf, who is this wise man that is extremely powerful, enough that they have this point in which they have this invading group of monsters coming in, and he single-handedly goes out and becomes known as the single-man army. He's able to essentially summon so many monsters that will fight for him. He's a one-man army. But again, it's all a video game. And so it does give a little bit of a sense of this idea of, okay, there's obviously some players that are more popular than other players. Again, Solomon being able to essentially lead a nation. There's role play involved. So it does this whole scenario where Dunbalf comes into this throne room and talks to Solomon, and Solomon tells him to go fight this stuff. And then afterwards, they go inside this room together and they're talking about how that was a great session of role play. So again, it does play in this idea that they are still playing a game here. But that kind of changes. I think it changes. I don't really know at this point. They have at this certain point. It says that after this big battle and Dunbalf takes out all this huge army, he disappears for 30 years. I guess it cuts 30 years later. And now Dunbalf is a little girl and he wakes up in this field. It gives a little, it's all kind of silence at this point of the storytelling. As he wakes up in this field, he's this little girl named Mira that he eventually calls himself Mira. And as this little girl, he's realizing that he can smell flowers. He tastes a grass and, it's bitter, obviously. And so it's indicating that he's in the same world, but he's getting senses here. It even has this point, and I think the writer really has a fetish for this because at some point he has to use the restroom as this little girl. And it does that like 3 times so far with the first 2 episodes. So it really does seem like this writer likes this has a little bit of a fetish there. So keep that in mind. Which is perfectly fine, I guess. I'm not judging. But eventually him as this little girl goes back to, he, again, is realizing how different this world is. It eventually comes to the kingdom he left. He sees Solomon again, and Solomon appears to be his friend. So I guess at this point we're establishing that it's not as if this is a story where a guy gets isekai'd into video game and everybody's not who they used to be. His friends are still there. Solomon's still there leading this nation even 30 years later. It seems like a lot of things have gone downhill for them ever since Dunbalt had disappeared. But again, it's acknowledging the idea that 30 years has passed since he was this wise man that everybody revered. He's now coming back to this nation. Things have changed. There's technology differences there because, again, they have vehicles in this world now, apparently. So again, the world itself is able to evolve even to the point that they can create technologies in this world. It's a very expansive video game. But this is where things get really hazy for me. I may have missed something. I even read a line to see if people were having the same experience, and I read tons of people saying the same thing as me, so apparently I'm not lost alone here. At this point, we're establishing that this Dunbalf guy is coming back to this nation after 30 years has passed. So he hasn't been present for this 30 years. It's not quite clear if Dunbalf, the player, somehow skipped 30 years, or if he stopped playing for 30 years and then came back and his character was, oops, a girl. Because he does say that he fell asleep opening up this glamour chest thing that allowed him to edit his character, and then he fell asleep, and so he assumes that this glamour thing went off and changed his character into a cute girl. So we've established why he's a cute girl. We haven't established why 30 years has passed, if he's either quit the game for 30 years and came back, or if, again, he fell asleep and unconsciously skip forward in time. But it does establish that Solomon, as well as other players, are still in the game. Solomon talks about how the fact that he's been having to keep control of this kingdom for 30 years. So he's been there. Solomon and all these other people have been playing this game for 30 years. But it's not clear on if they're trapped in the game. They have acknowledged that it's a VR MMO. Acknowledged that the technology has improved. Again, senses and all this other kind of stuff. But it doesn't establish if they're trapped in the game, if they're just still playing the game 30 years later and this guy came back to playing the game again. Again, it's I don't know. I don't know. They are talking about how weird things have happened. They acknowledge this idea that the NPCs are now lively and human-like. So it does indicate the idea that they're stuck in the game and that the game itself has changed. But I don't know. That's that's really where I'm getting my struggle with this show right now is I really don't know what the hell's happening. I don't know if this is an isekai. I don't know if this is a trapped in a game. I don't know if, again, Dunbolt time traveled. I don't know if Dunbolt just quit the game for 30 years and came back and, oh crap, my character got changed. I don't know. I really don't know at this point. Additionally, bad CGI. Let's get that out of the way. There's some horrific looking CGI in this show. It's the type of CGI that just doesn't match the art style. It doesn't match the characters in the world. It just looks very, very bubbly and very overly reflective, kind of, I guess is the best way to put it. Very rounded, and it doesn't match the characters themselves. I do like the world. I'm intrigued by the world, this idea of this very evolving and very loose, controlled game environment that's able to advance in different ways. A world that people can essentially create kingdoms and really build up. It gives it a lot more character than a standard game. And I'm okay with the concept of the super wise man guy that gets reincarnated, or not reincarnated, I'm sorry, I don't know yet, gets changed into a little girl, and the conflicts that come from that, because they're like afraid of talking about the fact that Dunbolt became a little girl because they're afraid that it'll ruin the reputation of the kingdom, because people won't fear the kingdom anymore if they think that Dunbolt's always been a cute little girl. So they're still trying to retain the fear that Dunball the wise man created and not, shattering it with this cute little girl. See, I'm very mixed on this show. There's nothing inherently that's doing wrong that I don't like. It's not really doing anything that is, I guess, overall going to be a bad, because I'm assuming hopefully they'll eventually explain what's going on, and if it's an isekai, or if it's a trapped in a VR MMO game, or if there's a time travel element here, or maybe that, again, he just took some time off for 30 years and then came back to the game. I don't know. I hope that eventually they explain that stuff, but for now, everything around it's not that bad. Besides the terrible CGI, I get a little bit of a kick out of the concept of, again, Guy being stuck in the gender swap type of concept, and the goofy kind of jokes that come from that. Now, granted, I don't really need 50 million restroom jokes that come from that. I can do without that part of it, but the rest of it's fine. I think one of the other things that I always kind of enjoy about these particular types of stories where technology of a game or trapped in a game concept changes is similar to Overlord, and this idea that I always enjoy the idea of taking NPCs and really jumping into the concept of something becoming more realistic, and that conflict that you may have in realizing, is this a real person or not? That idea of life being breathed into something that's normally an NPC, a non-play character, a non-living being that it can kind of introduce. And I do like that kind of idea. And so I hope that they'll dive into that a little more, but we'll see. I'm not I'm not against this series. I'll definitely be checking out more of it. I know my brother hates it because the first episode had too much old man and not enough cute girl. I'm sure he would probably enjoy it a lot more if there was more of the cute Mira character in the first episode, but that doesn't bother me too much because it was a lot of development of his persona that he was once. So I'll be interested to see where it goes from here, but that's my thoughts on She Professed Herself Pupil of the Wise Man. We'll see where it goes from here. But hope you guys enjoy this video. As always, if you like this video, hit that like button. It definitely helps us out. Hit that comment in there and leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of the series. If you're going to check it out, are you as confused as I am? If you know the source material, don't tell me. I don't want to be told what I'm missing because the show itself doesn't want to tell me. I want to see what the show tells me. So I'm sure there's answers to all these questions, but we'll see. For those that want to additionally support us, we have a Patreon and tips link in the description. We definitely appreciate everybody that does that, and y'all take care.